You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
From Los Angeles, California, and Maria Menounos, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV Spotlight On. Spotlight On is a long-form interview series featuring actors and TV personalities. And now, from the world's #1 TV after-show platform, this is AfterBuzz TV Spotlight On.
Hey everyone, I'm Kristen Carroll and welcome to Spotlight On. I am so excited to have with me actress extraordinaire. I mean, just your resume is unbelievable and I hope it only grows. I have with me Amy Gumnick. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
I was so excited that you came back. We had you on for Turn.
Yes.
Gosh, about 2 months ago now.
Wow, was it?
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just like, you know, I felt like I didn't get to talk to you enough because you have all these other shows, and so we focus on Turn,
Right.
which I'll still ask you about a little bit.
Of course.
But your resume is ridiculous.
Thank you.
First of all, congratulations, season 2.
I know. I know last time I was here, we didn't know.
No, or did you guys actually know? And you're a little hush
They
hush
really
about
kept
it?
us in the dark. And, you know, I kept, like, emailing and calling, like, series regulars. Be like, do you guys know anything? And they were, like, even the creator of the show found out when we found out. So they were, like, very secretive about it, which I feel like is kind of perfect for a show like Turn. You gotta, like, keep the mystery going.
Did they give you like an official call? Like, how does that work? Because like for me, Dylan, who you'd met, who did Turn with us, he came by my desk at work and he was like, so Turn got renewed for season 2, and he's like, there's a Deadline article about it.
Yeah, that's how I found out.
Oh, really?
Now, I don't know if it was like that for everyone. I was actually out of town at a friend's wedding, and I didn't have any cell phone service. And I thought, like, okay, I'm just going to leave work at home. This is a good excuse to, like, get away. And the second we got back into cell phone service, my phone started beeping, and there were, like, messages and Facebook posts. And I was like, it was, like, the best way to come back into reality.
Yeah, at first you're like,
So
wait,
no, I
what is
didn't get
going on?
anything until I saw the Deadline article as well.
Do they make sure that they, now for a new season, do they confirm you guys beforehand? They're like, do you have something in your contract that says if there's a season?
Well, I don't know. I'm not contracted because my character is recurring. So
Maybe Jamie Bell's is a little different.
yeah, I mean, I know that they were given tentative dates, but even that is still kind of up in the air. My situation is a little bit different because I'm episode to episode, so every phone call is an awesome surprise. So I do know that they were given like tentative, an idea of when they would be shooting, but nothing official.
Okay.
So in the meantime, people, you know, the actors and writers were like out there looking for other work because you never know.
Yeah,
So I
got to
think it
keep
was-
something just in case.
Yeah. So it was a very pleasant surprise for everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when do you know when you start shooting, or have you
The
gotten?
rumor is end of September, but we haven't gotten an official word yet.
So it'll be back to
So-
cold northeast.
Yeah.
Hopefully no polar vortex this
Oh my
time.
God.
'Cause last time
we survived the last one, so I think we can make it through anything now.
Yeah, and this time, and you'll be prepared. You'll be like, okay,
Right.
I need mittens and gloves.
Oh man, I don't know if
and-
you can prepare for that cold, but it's an adventure.
That's so cool. Have they gotten you any hints on your character, or
No, I do know.
you'll for sure be Philomena will be back.
I hope so. We're crossing like everything you can
She has
possibly
to, because they
cross.
haven't. Her storyline still has so much to do with everybody.
Right. Well, I think a lot of Philomena's storyline has to do with where they go with John Andre. And I know that we've sort of been unofficially told, and in the media, they've hinted at the fact that season 2 will feature him pretty heavily. So hopefully.
I know we'll have a few of our panel. Very excited.
Yes, a few people.
I actually got to meet him briefly and have
Yes,
an interview
I
with
saw
him.
that.
Yeah, I mentioned you. He called
Thank
you
you.
his muse.
Oh.
So I was
thank
like,
you.
that's a great
Yeah.
title for that.
I love that.
Now, it was cool. You guys have such great chemistry on the show as well. And I know you were saying that you had met previously before you actually got to go on this show.
Right.
Did you find talking with him kind of helped ease into what you guys were expecting on set?
Yeah. You know, it's rare when you get thrown into a situation like that. For whatever reason, they always start you with the most intimate, the most intense, the most whatever the situation is scene, which I think is kind of an icebreaker. They just want to throw you right into it.
Yeah,
There's no time to get comfortable.
Everything else is easy then.
Yeah, exactly. And I mentioned, I think when we talked last, when I first landed in Virginia, I had a message from one of the ADs saying that J.J. Field would like to speak with me. So I was so nervous. And we had about a day or two before we started filming. So we met and had coffee and talked about the characters and sort of created a backstory and a little bit of a history. And just having that opportunity to sit down and talk to this person face to face before jumping in a room naked with him was such a huge gift, and definitely made the first day of filming feel like I was going to work with a friend. And he's great. He's so welcoming and warm and passionate about what he does. So immediately I was sort of like welcomed into that. And, you know, as someone who I wasn't in the pilot, so you never know what the dynamic on a new show is going to be. And so it was really, I'm so grateful to have had that opportunity with him.
And speaking of jumping in the bed,
Yeah.
I'm always curious, like, for me, I mean, I grew up in a family, like, we're in the Midwest, so we're all, like,
Right.
I'm clothed all the time. How is it going into a scene like that? Like, how do you prep yourself, like, I am going to be naked on camera in about 5 minutes?
I don't know that you can prep yourself.
just do
for
it. You're just like-
You know, it's interesting because with this character in particular, there were so many aspects that I was so nervous about and so excited about. And you just have to kind of jump. I mean, that the first time on set when they call action and you have to drop that robe is terrifying. There's a moment that you think, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? And yet once you do it, you realize it's all part of the adventure. And everyone on that show in particular, I was really lucky that they were so incredibly accommodating and really as professional and respectful as I think they could have possibly been. So I was lucky. I feel like I kind of got eased into it.
At AMC, too, I mean, even if potentially you're nude
Right.
on the set, on screen it's like, you know, you see kind of
Yeah,
not
and,
the whole
and you're
thing.
not. I wasn't totally nude. I had little pasties on. But that too. I mean, I walked into my trailer, and you know, I knew even going into the audition that there would be partial nudity.
Okay, so they prep you. They're like they don't throw you in there and go.
No,
oh,
you have to
by
say
the way,
even
take
at the
off your clothes."
audition, you have to say on camera that you are willing to discuss nudity.
Okay.
And AMC is very tasteful about it. It was funny, actually, when I auditioned for Turn the next day, I had an audition for an HBO show. And that's a different situation, nudity on HBO.
Yeah. No pasties.
No,
Not
no.
at all.
But when
Especially for the women. Like the guys have a sock.
Yeah,
I do
there's
True Blood.
Oh,
so they have
so you
their
know about
sock
it.
of, you know, that some
well,
of them
there
were.
was a sock. It's pretty much all JJ got. But when I walked into the trailer, I had, you know, little like boy shorts and the like petal pasties.
Yeah.
I won't get too graphic. And I thought like, okay, this is kind of like a bikini. Like I could do this.
Yeah.
And then I picked up the shorts, and there was another pasty that I had never seen before. So I thought, well, maybe I get to wear that under. Maybe it's extra protection.
Yeah.
And they like brought the wardrobe in. They were like, no, just the stickers. Okay. But no, AMC, luckily, they have everything very drawn out. We actually, the first scene that we filmed was the post-bedroom scene, where JJ got to keep all of his clothes off, but I didn't get any. And we shot the whole scene, and it was great, and we were like off getting warmed up because it was absolutely freezing. And they called us back to set, and we were like, we're done. What do you need? And we went back on, and their words were, well, we saw a bit too much of your divide, so we need to refilm it. So I'll leave that up to your imagination. But it was nice to know that
They're watching.
They
out
were
for
really
you.
watching.
Well, in that scene too, you know, when he has his clothes on and you don't.
Right.
I thought that really worked. You know, some stuff you're like, oh, they don't need this. But for the plot purpose for that, I took it almost as you were being vulnerable with him.
Right.
But some of the panelists for Turn thought that it was the opposite, that you were, you know, that's why they call, you know, Philomena like the honeypot.
Right.
Is because she's
Right.
using her sexual ways to spy.
Yeah, we both have our ways.
How cool has it been to be on the show? Like, were you a big history buff growing up?
Not really, actually. I definitely, growing up, we all have to take a certain amount of U.S. history, and so I knew basic facts, but history was never really my subject. And so it was interesting when I first auditioned for this show, I had like a moment of, okay, now I need to go back and revisit all those history books. And it was a really interesting and great opportunity for me to sort of fill in the gaps in my own education and revisit the facts that I did know. And then, the show goes into such detail and introduces you to characters in a way that aren't in your history books. Yeah. So it sort of relit that flame for me. And the rest of the cast had the period between the pilot and that first episode to really brush up on those historical facts. So I had some catching up to do.
Yeah.
Which I feel like as an actor, when you're given something, especially, a part that is based in reality or a show that is based in historical truth, it's a great opportunity to learn a new skill and new facts. And so, I have sort of become more of a history buff since the show, which is fun.
What do you prefer as an actress? Because I almost think Philomena is a perfect role because you have guidelines,
right?
But you're not, you're not a real person like how, Woodhull is, Abe is, and you kind of have to stick to who that is, or even with Ian on, where he's General Washington. I mean, you have to stick with that. But Philomena, like, you can kind of create her your own character. And would you prefer to have like the strict guideline, like a General Washington, or do you like this middle ground, or you just like a character that's completely made up?
I think there are elements of each that are fun and challenging. I agree, though. Like you said, I feel like Philomena kind of is the perfect medium because she sort of represents an entire world of women that lived in that time. And yet I'm not recreating someone that is known and loved throughout history. So that pressure is off.
Yeah.
And I do get a little bit more, I think, creative freedom in sort of developing who this woman was. I'm sure there were many Philomenas. So I think it's sort of the marriage of the best of both worlds. There's the truth and reality there, and yet I get to play and create this fictitious character.
And you get like some of the most fun scenes too. I mean, you're one of the comic reliefs of this show. It's all so fascinating. Then you come in, and it's just you create this fun atmosphere as well with her character.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Which scene sticks out in your head as something that really was like, man, that was a great day on set?
All of them. I really have to say I've been very spoiled on this show. It's really been every episode, every director that I've worked with, every actor that I've worked with on turn brought a new life to the show. I think one of the scenes, if I had to choose one, I would say the scene where I'm playing cards and being tortured.
I love that scene.
And that was
about that
and that was something
awesome.
that I hadn't even really prepared for because I didn't know the extreme that the director was going to allow us to go. And he really gave us the freedom to play and to sort of find that scene through both what was given in the script and kind of just let us improv it. And so I think that was the biggest surprise for me. Reading the script, it wasn't very comedic. And at the end of the day, together we really found that comedy. So that's always a fun gift as an actor, to walk onto set thinking it's going to go one way and have a totally different experience, and one that I think in a lot of ways allowed me to grow and sort of stretch out of my idea of who this person was and what this world was and is. And I think in any drama, you have to have comedy. You have to find the fun. Because it's a dark show.
It is.
You have
moments.
to have fun. Yeah. So that's life. We got to balance.
I want to do one last turn question.
Yeah.
So for season 2, what do you want to see Philomena do? Like if you were writing it or chatting with the director and go, let's have her be sneaky, or let's actually have her be an American.
Well, that's something
Well,
that we've
she
talked
may
a lot
not be,
about. We
yeah.
don't know which side Philomena is on, in truth. Because she does start out, she's an American actress, and then is turned. And I think that there are endless possibilities of where they could go. I would love to see her maybe be a double spy.
If he gets too close to Abigail,
I was just going to say, now
she
that
might.
Abigail's in the scene, yeah. And I also think that, you know, having seen glimpses of her go into other characters, like we briefly meet Iris, I would love to be thrown just crazy, wacky characters to go do naughty things with and find out information. I think there's a lot of opportunity to really explore what that undercover spy world was. And I think that Philomena is a kind of perfect tool to do that with. Because they've sort of set up that she can be anyone and go anywhere. And
She's an actress.
yeah, so I would love to see them use that side of her more.
So I want to talk about, you were on, it was a small role, but I want to go, you were on one of my favorite shows, How I Met Your Mother.
Yes.
I want to talk about your experience. It was 3 Days of Snow as Amanda.
Yes.
How was it being on that set? Because
Oh, so fun.
it's got to be so different than a turn, because it's comedy, and you know, you're with Neil Patrick Harris and Josh Radnor and everybody.
Yeah,
Jason
I'm not
Segel.
going to lie. I was definitely a little starstruck walking into that table read. It was so fun. It's so interesting because it was the first comedy I had done in TV land. And the show is taped as if there's a live studio audience, but there's not. And so we had a day of rehearsal where you rehearse as if kind of like you're working on a theatrical production, where we rehearsed just the cast and the director. And at the end of that day, all of the producers and writers came down and saw a run-through. And then based on their reactions and where we got the laughs, they would rewrite and give us new lines.
Interesting.
So you really have to be on your toes. And coming from a theater background, I grew up in the theater dance world, so I didn't even realize how closely related the two mediums were until doing that show. And you just have to kind of be open for whatever they may throw at you, because sometimes there's not time to re-rehearse or even ask questions. You just have to go. And that show is such a well-oiled machine. I mean, they really have their formula down. So it was one that every time I wasn't on camera, rather than going back to my trailer, I kind of hung out and just watched. And I felt like it was such an incredible masterclass in comedic acting, just watching them work, because it's so natural for all of them.
How many
and
days
so
were you on
fun.
set for?
I think it was only about 3 days. Because, we had the day of rehearsal, and then I think the filming was spread over 2 days. And it was fun. That was while I was on set, Neil Patrick Harris found out that he was nominated. And so they, had a big surprise, and the band played when he came onto set. And so I got to be part of, that celebration, which was really
Take any
fun.
videos? Fun?
No, I wasn't allowed in my mind. But he's great, and it's really amazing how you walk on, and when I first got to the table read, couldn't believe who I was sitting at the table with, and within minutes you realize they're just normal people, and really down to earth, fun, great group of people.
Well, I've seen Allison Hannigan at a few premieres, and
she's so sweet.
she goes up to everybody. She was pregnant,
all
I think
that.
8 months pregnant in heels, and she walked up and down Hollywood Boulevard and signed for everybody that wanted it.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing cast.
Yeah. It was really fun, really great experience. And I actually grew up with Adam and Jason Segel, the brothers. I was good friends with their little sister growing up. My brother was good friends with them. So I hadn't seen him probably since I was 5. And so after our first table read, I went up to him and was like, I don't know if you remember me, but I used to play with your sister. So it was a fun little reunion of sorts.
That is too funny. It's
Obviously,
small
before
world.
he was anyone. So every time my parents see him on billboards, they're like, we remember him when he was a child.
That's where they send child pictures.
Yeah.
Look at him here.
Yeah.
That is
but
too
they're a great
funny.
group, really fun.
So then you grew up in California?
I did, yes.
Not in Sweden. Let's put this on the record.
I am not from Sweden. I'm sorry to disappoint.
I was I looked you up online to get, some more stuff, and there's not a lot. And what I was telling you earlier, one of the things I found is you're from Sweden.
Yes, I found that as well.
Really? That's interesting. And you're not even Swedish.
No,
What ethnicities are you?
Polish and Russian,
Okay.
primarily, with lots of little things mixed in.
My stepdad's 100% Polish.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My mom's side is Polish. My dad's side is Russian.
I have a little
And then
Russian.
we have a little French in there, and we're a mush,
oui.
but not Swedish.
That's too funny. It's
No.
got to be the
but
blonde hair.
I'll take it. I would love
mean-
to go to Sweden, so if that gets me anywhere.
That's what you should do. Like next, if you go to Sweden, just like take a selfie and be like, "I'm in my hometown." Yeah. Welcome back.
You know, it's funny. I
don't
almost
even know a
don't want to
Swedish
correct
word.
it online because I think it's kind of awesome that
Yeah.
I'm from Sweden.
I mean,
Sure.
she is from Sweden, you guys.
I'm
Don't
yes,
remove
I'm
that.
Swedish.
So California, born and bred though.
Yes, Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Okay. One of
Yeah.
the few. Dodgers fan then?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I thought you said Dodgers fan.
Oh,
I was like, what?
Dodgers. Excuse
yes,
me.
Dodgers. Yes.
It's a little warm. Maybe I should have some one.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, my boyfriend works for the Dodgers.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, my husband is like a diehard fan. So
Oh, nice.
I
Is he from?
he's
LA as
also
well?
from Los Angeles, actually.
How did you guys meet?
in college.
Okay. UCSB.
Yes.
So tell
That
us about.
fact is true.
Okay, good. Tell us about for people who want to get into theater and acting. How was that a good tool for you to bring on?
Oh, it was amazing. As I mentioned, I grew up in the theater and dance world, but not professionally at all. Community theaters, school theater, the theater department of my high school was sort of like what got me through.
You said dance. Then did you do musical theater or did
I
you
did,
do more? Okay.
yeah. All of the above. I started dancing when I was 5, and so I kind of grew up in the competitive dance world, and that sort of shifted into musical theater, and then I focused primarily, I kept dancing, but my passion and love for theater sort of took over. And I can't really remember a time in my life that I didn't know I wanted to act. And, growing up in LA, it was all around me. My parents are very, very supportive of the arts, but not in the industry at all. And so I begged to let them, let me try it. Let me just see. And so we, for a very short period of time, somehow, when I was about 8 or 9, I somehow convinced them to let me, just see what it was like. And so I got an agent and a manager and, went through the whole thing.
Well, it's good when you're here too, because it's not
yeah.
like some actors have to move cross country
Right.
for it, and then
Right.
that's where parents are like, maybe
well,
be an
and my
accountant.
parents- yeah, it's a tricky world. You have to be really careful.
Yeah.
And so the deal at the time was I could audition as long as it didn't interfere with school, and whoever was unhappy first, me or them, it was over, no questions asked. And if I still wanted to be an actor and went to college and was still insistent on it, they would support me 100%. So like I said, I think it lasted about 3 months. And ultimately, I met another little girl who we became friends through auditioning together. And so my mom called her mom to set up a play date. And the answer on the other end of the phone was absolutely not. They're in competition. They can't be friends. And I remember so clearly my mom hanging up the phone and looking at me and saying, "Remember our deal? It's over." And I was devastated. And now looking back on it, I could not be more grateful. Because it did allow me to continue my childhood and education as a kid, and then pursue it after college. And they've absolutely held up to their end of the deal. I was a theater major in college. And I felt like when applying to schools, I knew I wanted to go to a school with a strong theater program. But I also wanted to be in a setting that I was interacting with all kinds of people from all backgrounds and all different interests.
So that camp is huge.
Yeah, well, and UCSB is interesting because it's, a huge liberal arts college, and so I still had to do all of the general ed classes, which I think are valuable anyways.
Yeah.
'Cause you never know.
Exactly. You need a backup
Oh,
plan
yeah, and I took
in LA,
classes in things I didn't even know I was interested in and ended up loving. So I definitely cherish that time. But within the school, there's a 3-year conservatory, which is a Bachelor of Fine Arts program. So I kind of got the best of both worlds. I got the conservatory training at a liberal arts school where I was exposed to everything. So I recommend it. I am grateful beyond words for the training that I got there, and was really fortunate with the community, both students and faculty. And I'm still very close with all of them. So yeah, it was great. And then I think there's also only so much you can learn in a classroom. And so the second I graduated, I started auditioning and being on set and, you know, getting any little job working in a casting office, or I did extra work sort of to really get a sense of what is this world that I've dreamt of my entire life, and is this a reality? And so I kind of feel like still, years later, I feel like I'm in like the most incredible, intense graduate school program I could ever design. There's constantly new things to learn.
What was your first job that gave you your SAG card?
I actually initially I became eligible to join the union through extra work. I was an extra on the
So you
show
did a few different
Numbers.
things.
Yes. And I was advised at the time to hold on to my eligibility and not join until I had a job that would help pay the dues, which was very good advice, and I would
Because
pass
they're
on.
expensive.
They are expensive, and it puts you in a different category, a different pool of who you're auditioning up against, the kinds of projects you're able to go out for. So the job that officially got me into the union, or allowed me to join the union, was Greek on ABC Family.
Yep.
I had a small recurring role. I did 2 episodes. And in that situation, at my audition, they said, "We see that you're eligible. Would you be willing and ready to join tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll go right now." And that evening, I got a call saying, "You better be there when they open," because I started filming the next day, so I had less than 24 hours to join and be on set.
That's crazy.
So that was thank you, Greek.
Were you in Greek life at UCSB?
I wasn't. UCSB has a pretty small Greek life. However, the BFA program that I was in, we teased, was like a co-ed sorority fraternity.
Theater usually is.
Yeah, it's pretty
is-
incestuous.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
it's a family.
I did that in high school. I was
Okay.
like, it was this, main group. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
very incestuous.
Yeah, I don't know how I could have done both. But yeah, so it was my sorority, I guess.
No, something else you almost had to get inducted into was you were on Supernatural, which has a huge fan base. How was it diving into a character as well? I mean, now I had her name, and now I can't think of
Mary
it.
Winchester.
Mary Winchester. I did watch the episodes with you
Okay.
and them. You and the husband were so adorable.
Thank you.
And the fact that you had to jump into a character that people knew already,
Yeah.
but a younger version of it. How
Right.
was that?
Luckily, I didn't know that I was doing that when I initially auditioned. They're very secretive, similar to Turn, but even more extreme. They change the names for auditions. They give you fake breakdowns. So I was preparing a role that I had created based on the sides and the breakdown. And it wasn't until I was in the audition and I saw the casting director looking at me and looking at a picture of Samantha Smith, who plays the, I guess, older version of Mary, that I kind of connected, oh, am I going to be the younger version? And then when I was cast, I was told. Which I was glad that I didn't know. And then through doing my research, she does such a beautiful job in creating that role and has sort of become sort of everyone's mother and is so loved by that community. And as I'm sure you know, the fan base of Supernatural is unlike anything I have ever experienced
so
or could even
intense.
imagine. So then all of a sudden pressure was on, and I thought, oh my gosh, can I really fill these shoes? And I watched everything I could that she had done to sort of see, okay, who is this person? And when I first got to set, the director came up to me and said, "We want you to know that we cast you because of you, and that you and Samantha share an essence. We're not looking to recreate the Mary that we've already seen. We want to see a different side of her. So free yourself of any kind of feeling that you have to do what she did. Otherwise, we would have just had her do it." So that was nice to be like, okay, I can breathe. And I didn't meet her until months later, and it was weird meeting her because we do have a lot of similarities, and not even anything you can put into words, but more of, like he said, an essence about us.
Yeah, some sort of feeling.
And we've kind of both created our own Marys that almost accidentally are the same person. So, yeah, it was a lot of pressure, but
Well, and everybody seemed also to be okay with that too. I was
They were
reading
wonderful.
the message boards and stuff too, and note after note, I kid you not, was just like, we love her
Oh, thank you.
as
Thanks,
Mary.
guys.
I mean, she really like
That
did the
community,
fans
I will
well.
say, they welcomed me with such hugely opened arms, and their support has continued far beyond my time on that show, which hopefully maybe will continue someday. I don't know. And I had been warned that women are not always welcomed into that world.
Oh,
But
yeah.
because I
They love
birthed
those
Sam
main
and
characters.
Dean and did not make out with them, I think I have a little bit of an advantage there.
Yeah.
But no, they've been great and have been so supportive, and I mean, like I said, surpassed anything I could have imagined from any fan community.
Yeah, I saw actually a video of you, I think it was at Toronto, where like you even took one of the fans' cameras and brought it on stage with you and everything. I love how you do that. How was it actually meeting the fans? Like, how many conventions and stuff did you get to go to?
Intense. I've only done a few conventions, and the first convention that I did was after the first episode, and Matt Cohen, who plays young John Winchester on the show, and I were on the bus that we were being transported from our hotel to the convention center, and we were joking that nobody was going to know who we were. We'd only been on one episode. We'll just like blend in and just be fans and like just see what this world is like, because we had both been warned, like, oh, they're going to ask you for conventions now, you know, as a guest star. And at the time we thought it was just that one episode. We thought, like, okay, that's nice of you to say, but why would anybody want, like, we've been on one episode. And man, were we wrong. We walked into that hall, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, you were like, the screams and the flashes, I felt like, I've been asked about this before, and the best way I can describe it is I felt like I was, like, at a Beatles concert with the girls like fainting, and it was intense. And those fans know every detail about every character, even down to, I did a panel with Jared and Jensen, who play the leads on the show, and there are questions like, well, in this episode your tattoo was 3/4 of an inch lower than this episode. I mean, it's incredible. So to be part of that world and to be on the other side of that world was, I think, life-changing. I mean, it still is so surreal. And it really was kind of a crash course in just the notion that without those fans, the show wouldn't exist. So I feel like, you know, people travel the world to meet the cast of that show and, you know, spend their whole savings, and the least I can do is, like, give them a hug, or I feel so indebted to that community.
Yeah.
And they really have been so amazing, and I don't think I could possibly thank them enough. It's been quite a ride, and one that I did not expect.
Did you go down to Comic-Con with them? Because that's kind of the
No.
mecca of the convention.
I didn't go to Comic-Con. I've done a few conventions that were strictly supernatural in England, and then a few in the States.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah,
cool.
it's taken me some fun places.
What's the most exciting place out of all the, you know, film set or television sets and everything that you've done that you've gone?
Probably South Africa.
Which one was that
Yes.
for?
Natalie Holloway for Lifetime.
Okay, I was going to ask about
The
that, where
first-
you filmed it at
Yes,
and
the
everything.
first one we filmed in Cape Town, South Africa. And so that was
Okay.
sort of a
That
on the
was
top of my
Aruba.
list. Yes.
Okay.
It's Aruba. So that was so incredible to get to explore that part of the world, and definitely somewhere that I would love to and will go back someday. Because, you know, when you're working, there's only so much tourism you can do.
And then you get tired, I imagine,
Right.
afterwards, because you had a lot of night scenes as well.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was one in particular that I just kind of forced myself to stay awake because I wanted to see it all. But what an incredibly beautiful place. Yeah, I've been pretty lucky though. I've gotten the opportunity to travel a lot for work and seen a lot of places that I probably otherwise would never. I mean, I'd never been to Richmond, Virginia. But yeah, I would say probably Cape Town was the most exciting.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Natalie Holloway, because actually a few people, when I said I was interviewing you, if they didn't watch Turn, they actually knew you from that.
Oh, wow.
And I was going to watch a few scenes with you, and I ended up getting hooked, and I watched the whole thing on Saturday. That is what I do on my Saturday nights.
Lifetime does that.
I do Lifetime movies. Yeah, and you were amazing in it.
Thank you.
I mean, the story itself too. I mean, how did you get involved in that role? And was it something where, as soon as you had heard the story, because it was everywhere. Was that something that kind of engaged you to go into it?
Yes, it was interesting. It was one of my first roles out of college, actually, and when I first got the audition notice, I immediately sort of had this like feeling in my stomach because I'm about the same age as Natalie. I remembered so clearly when that happened, and I think in some ways hearing about her story on the news when it was happening was the first time as a teenager that I realized, oh, I'm not invincible, and kind of opened my eyes to how much darkness there is in the world and how, unfortunately, her story is not unique. It just happened to be one that got attention. So I was a little bit nervous going into the audition. And when I found out I was cast on that, or in that, while I was filming How I Met Your Mother. I think that all happened right around the same time, because I remember where I was when I got the call, and it was on that set. Yeah, it was, that one I would say more than any role was like, okay, pressure's on, because I felt like my goal was to not necessarily portray her exactly how she was or, fulfill anybody else's version of that story or of who Natalie was, but to really honor her memory and honor her family. So yeah, I mean, it was quite a journey. Initially I got the book that the movie is based on that her mother, Beth Twitty, wrote. And then her father actually wrote a book as well that I read, and watched every interview I could possibly find with her relatives and friends, and every news interview and everything I could get that, Joran van der Sloot, all of his public appearances, and sort of just like inundated myself with that world, which wasn't the happiest of times.
No, I would imagine just after that too. I mean, you definitely need a break or go back to How I Met Your Mother for a few days.
Some comedy.
Just be like, Neil, come.
Yeah, can you just come make me laugh? So it was an incredible opportunity and definite challenge. And I was lucky enough to get to meet and have brief interaction with Natalie's mother, which was probably one of the most surreal experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, 'cause she's able to tell you firsthand.
Yeah, it's interesting because I met her on set, and so it was very sort of superficial, and we were being filmed, and it wasn't the personal connection that I would have liked. I just didn't want to meet her walking into some horrible reenactment of something.
Yeah.
But that's what it was, and so again, you just kind of have to jump. And it was interesting. It was a very controversial project to be part of. There was a lot of people that were really excited that her story was being told, and a lot of people who were not so happy about it. So to sort of be in the middle of that and be aware of that and not let that affect my performance was another challenge.
Well, and it was one of the highest rated on Lifetime. It still might be top for sure.
I know at the time it was top.
Yeah, it was. It broke records for them.
Right, and I think that it's such an important story to be told because, like I said, it's not the only one like it. And I think that what Beth has done as a result in terms of really bringing awareness to travel safety and specifically when dealing with teenagers, and sort of empowering these young people to have the tools that Natalie didn't have, is incredible. And I think, largely what I do, my goal is to make a difference in my work. And that was one project that I actively felt like I was doing that. If one 16-year-old saw the film and changed the way that they thought or approached a situation, then I feel like it was a successful film.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you do. You have to be so careful. I mean, have you ever studied abroad?
I didn't study abroad, but I remember in high school even, the senior trip that everyone went on, even then I just had a bad feeling about it. And I remember talking to my parents about it and bringing them the information and saying, like, I know this is what everyone's doing, but I don't think this is a good idea.
Where was your senior trip to?
I think it was somewhere in Mexico.
Okay.
But there's like very little supervision, and
they let you go on your own. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You definitely have to make sure, because I studied abroad too.
Oh, you did?
It's stuff where when you hear stories like that, I mean,
Right.
my mom was always like,
Of course.
call me when you get to wherever you're going. I mean, it is something
Right. Where did
that
you
you brought
study?
attention to. Florence.
Oh, amazing.
2 months. It was,
Oh, that's awesome.
I recommend. It's good. I like walking cities.
Yeah, me too.
Perfect
Me
walking
too.
city.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I highly
I
recommend
know.
it.
It's one thing. If I could do college all over again, I would have studied abroad.
Just do it for like the short session. 'Cause,
Okay.
like after about 2.5 months,
You're ready.
My friends were always kidding me because I was like, "Where's my McDonald's?" Like I used to go to McDonald's and they're like, "You're in Florence, Kristen." Like,
It's
get your
different
act
there,
together."
though. It's like
is.
fancy in Europe.
It's better.
Yeah.
Well, even in London, as you
Yeah.
saw probably.
Yeah,
The
there was
food
a
of all of it.
McDonald's in London. I remember I just walked by, but it had like a fireplace and people taking your order. I was like, where are we?
My mom's gonna laugh at me because she'll watch this and she'll be like, "Kristen, we always bring up McDonald's. Like, what is wrong with you?"
had
But
an
America. Just kidding. No, but definitely Natalie Holloway with that story as well. Did that kind of open up doors for you now? You know, because it was probably because it did break so many records.
Yeah.
It's something on somebody's mind. So when you go in somewhere, did that make it easier or harder after doing that role?
You mean in walking like into auditions?
Yeah, going
Um,
after that.
Yes, it absolutely opened doors, and it's interesting because it's. I feel like I just did it, and yet it was like almost 5 years ago, and it's still the one project that I'm consistently asked about, which I just think is funny. And I think, you know, largely because of the subject matter and how sensitive it was. And I still kind of, when I think back on it, I feel like I dreamt that whole experience. It was, you know, I kind of had to just like, it was almost like an outer body experience. I know that sounds crazy, but I had to be fully present and yet removed at the same time because it was the kind of project that at the end of the day I had to just shake it off and let it go. Which, you know, again, was another challenge. And then 2 years later, I got a call that there was a sequel happening. I was like, what?
How do you make a sequel?
we like joked about a sequel.
Yeah.
And that was interesting because in the sequel, Justice for Natalie, it focused more on sort of what had happened since Natalie's disappearance and followed more of the legalities of the Joran van der Sloot case and
How much Beth was supposed to say about him and what was slander.
right.
Yeah.
And you know, him being tried for the murder of Michelle Flores, and so there were it was an update, I guess. And so Natalie was really only seen in the second film either in dreams or flashbacks or visions that Beth had had. And so I was I played a ghost in the film and had several different reenactments of what maybe could have happened. And we sort of went through, Joran van der Sloot made 11 separate confessions that were all thrown out in the end. But we went through what would it have looked like if one of those would have been true. So that was an emotional process, but it was interesting because having done the first film and some of the cast had changed, I kind of felt like a ghost of the film. Like I was there, but I wasn't really interacting with many people except Stephen Amell, who played Joran van der Sloot, who's now Arrow. So yeah, it was interesting revisiting that a few years later.
Do you still talk to him or do you watch Arrow?
Yes and yes. It's funny, I've auditioned for the show a few times, and we've kind of lost touch over the past few years, but I'll like text him and be like, okay, I'm auditioning for this role. Do you have any inside scoop? But he's great, and it's funny, I remember when he auditioned for the role, and then all of a sudden he like exploded, which was so fun to watch, and he's a great guy, so.
That's good to
Yeah.
hear. I know
Yeah.
so many, we have on AfterBuzz, like Arrow is one of the top
really?
shows. Yeah.
He's great. He definitely deserves it.
Is there, I lost my train of thought. That's terrible.
Oh, no.
I was so excited when you were talking about that kind of stuff. But with that as well, what did, for all the actors and people in entertainment, what would be the one thing of advice that you would give to them?
For what? What kind of advice?
Just getting into, you know, what was something that somebody told you that kind of kept you going for entertainment? Who's your biggest cheerleader?
Oh, there's so much. I would say probably the thing that is most prevalent right now in my life, because it's a roller coaster, and I think acting and the entertainment industry in general have the highest highs and the lowest lows. And I remember growing up, I was always told, like, if there's anything else you think you could possibly be happy doing, do it. And there wasn't for me. Like I said, from the time I can remember, my earliest memory of deciding this is what I'm going to do with my life, I was 5. And so I just knew that there wasn't another option, that this is what I was meant to be doing. But I understand that advice now more than I did. And I think it comes from the fact that, like I said, it is a roller coaster, and you just can't take no for an answer. And, I recently saw a video, actors were talking about answering this very question. And someone said that as an actor, you have to take every opportunity you're given to act, whether that's 2 minutes of an audition or 6 months on a film or 10 years on a TV show. We're given the opportunity to share what we love with whoever's watching. And I kind of feel like as an actor, I have a responsibility as a storyteller to teach and to heal and to inspire. And like we were talking about with Natalie Holloway, if one person in the audience is moved or forced to think a different way or emotionally impacted at all, then I've done my job. And so I think sticking clear to that, why do you want to be doing this? And why is there no other option, is kind of what keeps me going. There's a bigger picture there. In terms of auditioning, it's not about the one audition. I've had so many opportunities and ultimately so many jobs that have not come from the audition, but have come from an audition I did 6 months prior, and someone saw my tape and remembered me for a project in the future. So you never know. My acting coach always says, like, you have to think of your life as like a garden and you're planting seeds, and you have no idea where those seeds are going to pop up and become flowers, which is cheesy, but is true. And I think that kind of takes the pressure off the specific audition, is just keep going, because you never know. And if you know this is what you're meant to do, you'll do it.
So before I get to, this is the second time I'll be doing my super fan section that I started with J. August Richards. I do have a fan question, a friend question, from Megan Salinas, who just turned with us. She wanted to know, so she had 2 questions, but they're together. Which role has been the most fun for you, and which role has been the most difficult? We kind of talked about Natalie being the most difficult, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think the most difficult on an emotional level, definitely, I would say Natalie Holloway. Gosh, those are hard.
Thanks, Megan. You couldn't ask a John Andre question?
I was counting on it. I had juicy details for you.
What does he smell like? I'll ask that.
What does he smell like?
Yeah. What does JJ smell like? I'm just trying to think of a juicy...
All right, well, this is like so not romantic, but baby powder, because that's what they use in his hair.
Really? Yeah. That's hilarious.
A little braid.
The only reason I thought of that question is once Charlize Theron was asked that with Michael Fassbender.
That's so funny. Yes, there was a lot of baby powder on set. That set, though, had all kinds of smells with the candles and the fog machines and, it's sort of a mush of... Those were the days that I was happy my allergies were acting up. I was like, okay, but...
Yeah, sorry, difficult... And most fun.
I think Philomena has probably been one of the most fun. Number one for the dress-up factor. Growing up, I always wanted to be a fairy tale princess, and I kind of feel like she gets to play that line a little bit. The wardrobe on this show is so incredible, and the whole design team they're some of the most talented people I've ever met. So to have the opportunity to step into this incredible make-believe, but not fully real, actualized, lived-in world was so fun. Every script there were new surprises and new challenges. But I have to say, and I really mean this, and don't mean to sound cheesy, but I've been pretty fortunate to have pretty much across the board positive experiences. And yeah, some roles are more personally fulfilling and creatively fulfilling than others. But there are always memories and lessons that I've taken away from every one of them.
And you've gotten so many different things. Okay, so my super fan section
Super fan.
is just going to be basically random questions.
Okay.
Kind of based on, stuff that we've talked about and some really out in left field.
Bring it
and
on.
We'll just go from there.
Great.
That's kind of how I like to do that. So, what I'm going to start with, the first one is always, what are you obsessed with now? Like, if we were just going to talk, we just like,
My
oh God, I
puppy.
love this. What
I
kind of
have
puppy?
officially become that crazy dog owner that I always made fun of.
Have you tweeted pictures?
No, but I will.
Tweet one, because I
Okay.
want to see a puppy picture.
All right,
Or just
stay
show me
tuned.
after.
Okay.
What kind of dog?
He's an Australian Shepherd mix.
Ooh.
We think maybe lab. We're not really sure.
Okay. What'd you name him?
Jackson with an X, Jaxon.
Is that after something or just like the
You
name?
know, I don't know how people name children because naming a dog was the hardest decision.
It really is.
We
It
went
almost just
through like
comes
lists
to you.
and lists. Yeah, it did. And we had when we got him, we had a few ideas. He was Brando for a few days, and that just didn't feel right. And Jackson was on the list, but we weren't sure. And it kind of came about because when we got him, he was like 4 pounds, a little fluff ball. And when he sat on the floor, he wasn't strong enough to like keep himself sitting, so he would sort of like moonwalk across the floor. So we were like, Jackson! And he answered to it, so it stuck.
Oh, that's perfect.
But he's like my love.
How old is he now?
He'll be 1 tomorrow.
Oh, so he's still a baby.
He's a baby.
So you have any
baby.
problems in the house? Like, does he like to chew some shoes?
He's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the chewing has gotten better.
Do you have to spray him when he does something bad? That's why I haven't had a puppy. We always get our dogs a little later.
We didn't spray him, but somebody had suggested that.
Like water. Like
Yeah. That's not true, actually. I lied. We did spray him with water. And it was funny. I felt so bad, but after we did it like 2 times, then we would touch the water bottle and he would just stop and look at us. Like, okay, I'm sorry. But it's pretty fun. It's amazing how having an animal changes your life, too. I mean, not only am I so much more active because he has to be.
Yeah, you have to take him out.
Yeah, but it's really caused us to sort of rediscover where we live. And, I've grown up in California and never really took advantage of, like, what is around us. There's so many amazing hiking trails and beaches and places that I didn't know about till I got a dog. And I grew up with dogs, and so I've always loved. I kind of grew up with a farm. We had every animal.
What was probably the strangest animal if you were
At one point, we had 2 dogs, 2 chickens, a turtle, 2 birds, like an aquarium of the fish that were always having babies.
You have to keep
An
getting a different
iguana.
tank.
Yeah.
Iguana would be a little out there for a farm too. I wouldn't have
It was an
pictured that.
aquatic farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the iguana was a troublemaker. So I've always loved animals, but having my own is a whole different experience. He's like my baby.
Now going back to the card game.
Yeah.
What is your favorite card game?
I would say it's a toss-up between Crazy Eights and I don't even know, is it Slap? Where you like go really fast and then
Oh, I think there's a few different names for that, but I know what you're talking
Okay.
about.
I'm really good at that.
So no Vegas games. Like you're not. Do you gamble in Vegas?
No, a little bit. I give myself a limit though.
Yeah.
Because it just goes so fast. All of a sudden they're like taking your money. You're like,
I know. I like
So-
where I can see my money a little bit more. Like if I go
Yeah.
to a show, or do you go to a show
yeah.
still?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you,
yeah.
now, if you're going to go to a show because you've done theater, do you go see a musical or do you go see like Shakespeare
It really depends.
on the mood?
Yeah, I love live performance in general, so it kind of depends on what's there and yeah.
What's your favorite musical?
I'm gonna have to, oh gosh, there's so many. I'm gonna have to go with Chicago only because it's what secured my decision to be an actress. When I was 5, this is such a silly story. When I was 5, my brother was in a high school production of Chicago, and I went and sat like on the floor in front of the seats every single night, and with the script in my lap. I couldn't read, but I had the script. And I memorized the entire show start to finish. And closing night, went up to my parents and informed them that I was going to be Roxy Hart one day, which coming from a 5-year-old is a little bit worrisome.
They're like, hide the gun.
Exactly. And when I was 16, I did play Roxy. And so that was sort of, I think, of all the shows I was part of, that was the one that had the most impact on me. So it's my favorite for sentimental reasons.
See, in high school, I was Velma Kelly for Halloween. I kid you not, my friend was Roxy Hart.
We should
have
do
pictures
a
somewhere.
remake.
We should. I think I have the wig somewhere else. Okay, I'll do one or two more quick questions, and then we do have to wrap up. So in Supernatural, you sang "Hey Jude"
Yes.
to your sons. What's your favorite Beatles song, though?
I'm a big Beatles fan. I actually tried to convince the director to let me hum "Hey Jude" over the credits, but it was a legal issue and I couldn't do it.
Like saying "Happy Birthday" or something.
Right,
You know,
right.
Can't do any of
It's
those.
like I could change it up. No. My favorite Beatles song. Oh gosh, I don't think I have a favorite Beatles song. I love the Beatles. Yeah.
Earlier Beatles or later Beatles?
Probably earlier Beatles.
Yeah.
It's also good though.
It really is.
They're just classic.
So you were on CSI.
Yes. Miami and
so
New York.
What's your preference, if Miami or New York?
Preference as an actor or as a victim?
Ooh, let's go with victim.
Victim.
Which one was tougher
My
for
role
you?
in New York was meatier, I would say. I got to kill my husband and cover it and then be, torn apart into emotional mush until I confessed. That was a really fun show to work on. Both of them were. My role on CSI New York, I think, was a little bit more involved, and I was there for longer. And I mean, like I said about How I Met Your Mother, but talk about a well-oiled machine. That show moves so quickly. We would have like 1 or 2 takes and then like done. So that was the whole time I was like, okay, what's next? So yeah, they were both fun for different reasons, but I think that I got a little bit more involved in CSI New York.
And then 2 more. I'm going to
Yes.
ask. So you were in Grimm. We talked
Yes.
about, you wanting to be a fairy tale princess. If you could be any fairy tale princess, who's your favorite? Who would you want to be? If you were on Once Upon a Time, who would you cast you as?
What if she's already been on?
That's okay. Well, she got sick.
She had to be recast?
Yeah, she had to be recast. She's
so funny
on
that you asked
maternity
about that
leave.
show. I just recently have gotten into Once Upon a Time.
I'm obsessed with that
Oh,
show.
man. My first instinct would be Cinderella. However, as a child, it was a toss-up. I went through phases where I would only respond to certain names and costumes. And I switched off between Cinderella, Tinkerbell, and Alice in Wonderland. So they're not all princesses, but...
But they're all blonde.
Right, okay, yeah, there you go.
I stuck with Belle because I was like, I got
Perfect.
the brunette thing going on.
Perfect.
And then final question. If you could be on any show, what would you want to be on?
Can we go back in time?
Absolutely.
Breaking Bad.
Ooh,
I'm a big Breaking Bad fan. I don't
it's a good show to be on.
know who I would have been.
What about Better Call Saul?
There you go. Maybe he
could
needs
fix
a
that. That's AMC
receptionist.
as well. You should get on that. You need to get on that, Amy.
All right, let's work on that.
Let's get Amy. We should do a hashtag. Get Amy on Better Call Saul. Well, thank
I
you
love it.
so much for
Thank
coming back. And
you.
if there's 1,010 questions,
Oh, well, to be continued.
yes, exactly. We'll have you back in for other stuff.
Great.
For sure. You're
Can't
always
wait.
welcome. And thank you guys so much for joining us on Spotlight On. Oh, and Amy, where can the fans find you? Website?
Yes, I have a website, which is just my name, amygumenick.com. It's Gumenick. Also on Twitter, @AmyGumenick, and Facebook, Amy Gumenick. Pretty easy.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I'm
you.
so excited. I mostly just wanted to hang out with you for an hour.
I know.
That was more
well,
why I called
when
you.
the cameras turn off, that's
Exactly.
when the fun starts.
And thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm Kristen Carroll. You can find me on Twitter @KristenCarroll13. I also do the True Blood podcast right now, and hopefully more Spotlight On, so stay tuned. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.